Okay.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for
Welcome to you
thank
this
you,
morning, Jen.
Suzanne. Okay, I guess we'll get started, and I'm excited that you've come to see this new technique, which thrills me to death. I just love trying different things on porcelain. I'm kind of an experimenter, and I call myself a mixed media maniac. And I will show you some of the things that I have done, the diverse ways you can use stamp solder on porcelain and other things, but our focus today is what we can do on porcelain. Um, you may have seen this on the advertisement. It is, okay, I'm going to try to tilt it so there's no glare. Right along the top is some stamp solder to repeat the mushroom image. This is an inky cap mushroom, created several techniques in that. And down toward the bottom here, on the side, can you see that? Okay. I want you to see that it just sort of frames up the mushroom. And of course, this shows some of the other stuff I'm interested in, but we're not going to talk about resin or alcohol inks or any of that stuff. But this is all this raised area is actually a structure paste and or enamel. But anyway, I like to incorporate a lot of different techniques, and it just thrills me to find new ways to express myself with mixed media. That's a large. All right. Now, this is some of the smaller pieces I've done. And these three pieces here are on glass. And it's beveled glass. So I don't know if you can do this on any kind of glass, but this is beveled glass. It's got a little edge around it. And it shows here how I've techniques on glass. And then over here are some jewelry pieces. Jewelry is a really fun and quick way to spiff up for something different in your creations. And then down here toward the bottom, I got a necklace that's this is on a porcelain bisque tile and just a very simple image. Now, when we do stamp solder, we don't always care about getting the exact image on the stamp itself. We're wanting some texture, but in this case, there's a little more of an image there. These little guys are medallion type things that I created on a ceramic tile. And they don't stick to the tile. You just do them on the tile. And then I keep them for future use. I just keep them in a little box. You never know when you might want to um, glue them on a disc or something for a piece of jewelry. Over here, we have the different sizes of copper foil. And I'll go through all the supplies here in just a moment, but they come in different sizes, and I've used all different sizes. An example of one of those little medallion things. It's kind of shiny, maybe. Like here's a jewelry. And that can make a pretty striking piece, especially if you put luster behind it or paint something after contemporary. Even realistic traditional style paint nice with this. You just never know. You want it to be unique to you. Okay, I've done this is on metal, obviously. So that's kind of how I started off practicing. And that was sort of a fun thing to do. The box. And I'm kind of into steampunk. So that's sort of that motif there. And when you have something ugly, we sometimes use base for gold to cover up some mistakes that we make that doesn't look very pretty. Well, this is one of those experimental tiles. It is really ugly and it's blah. I still have to do something to it. But when I did my stamping of those little medallions, this is what I came up with. I got a little carried away with the stamp, and I'm not sure I can ever recreate this, but I put it across this little disc. And doesn't that look it's going to need some more work, but it's a challenge. And so it gets us out of our rut doing everything the same way. So the supplies that I use are stained glass supplies. And let me get these out here and I'll lift them up and show you what I use. First of all, we're going to need a soldering iron. And this is the one I use. It's a Hack OFX. FX 601. It's used, I learned this from a potter, and this is what, it's a heavy duty soldering iron. And when I first purchased this a couple years ago, it was under $100, but I think now these might be a little more expensive. I'm kind of lost there. Okay, so that's the first thing you'll need. Solder. Now, I've been using this big gas for a long time, and the other day it says 95/5 lead free, so it's not fully lead free apparently, and but it's more affordable. This is a pound roll compared to the silver gleam, which is definitely lead free. Not a whole lot of difference in the colors. They both work well. This is about twice as expensive as this. This is an 8-ounce roll. So you'll need solder. And then, of course, we're using rubber stamps because it's a stamped solder technique. And so any rubber stamp, as long as usually red is a good indicator that it's rubber. You don't want to use plastic. You don't want to use silicone. These can be with a wood mount or not. This one doesn't have any attachment. All round, square. And these are, here's a bigger one. And you see, I'm not going to get this whole image on there. I just want some of the lines that's on, and areas, lighter areas, just like painting. You want 3 levels of depth, if you can. Otherwise, any stamp will work. You just have to play around with it. So you have rubber stamps, you got the solder. Now I also have to use some flux because we are going to use that copper foil tape. And today I'm using this size. They come in reels like this, and they're not that expensive, but because I'm going to put it on a star ornament that I started a while back, and it needs spiffed up. And then we use flux on top of the copper foil. And this is a liquid flux. The soldering irons might come with a paste form. It will work too. I think for me, what I found is the paste sometimes smokes a little bit more. You'll get a little bit with this. Just don't breathe the fumes no matter what you use. Just kind of stay back. I'm not saying you need a mask because, what's the fun of that? But if you are sensitive, be smart. Take care of yourself. And then we have patinas that we can darken these areas of stamped solder. And it brings out the design, and the depth areas are darkened. And it's just amazing how it pops out. Just the line work, whatever, you can. This little guy has darker and lighter areas. And that makes it more interesting that it's all solid dark or all solid silver. Now, there are times you might want it all silver looking, and that's great too. Then once we get the stamp solder on there, we're going to want to put the patina. And the patina comes in different colors, but I haven't found a whole lot of difference in the colors. I like the darkening one and I like the black one. They copper and bronze, and I don't see where it makes it look more like another type of metal. So I don't know. You might have better luck with that. But as long as these guys are working for me, I'm happy with it. Now you want to start off with your soldering iron. And if I slip and call it curling iron, I do that once in a while. You know I'm talking about soldering iron. And you got to tip the tin. And it starts off a really shiny tip. It's a chisel tip that we're using. If you buy a cheaper soldering iron, uh, it might come with 3 or 4 tips. Those are not heavy enough to do this technique. So I bought some ones. I liked them because they had an on and off switch. This one just has to be plugged in and unplugged if I want to turn it off. So you have to tip the tin, otherwise your solder is not going to go anywhere. And there's 2 ways to do it, as far as I know. Is this is a sal ammoniac block. I started off with this, and I don't mind it. It looks kind of like this, but by the time I get done with it, it looks kind of ugly like this. But you put a little bit of solder in there, and you stick this in, and it smokes a little bit, and then you get a shiny place on your tip. And I think I've had these tips long enough. I might need to be looking at replacement tips, but they'll last you at least a couple of years, and it's still fine. What happens is as you use your soldering iron, it oxidizes and it turns black on the tip. So that's why you want it nice and shiny. But once I started doing this, these cute little tip tinner tins, it's a little tiny box with the stuff inside. And you can see it's not pretty because I've used this. But again, I'm just going to show you up here. And then when we get on the real project, you can see that, yeah, it's shiny. So, and you usually do both sides, and looky there, it's just great. Okay. Set this aside. I'm going to lower the screen so you can see my work table here. Now, I have got a star ornament that I'd put 2 colors of luster on. Now I'm going to try and make sure there's no glare because I have the lights a certain way. And it's not pretty. The blue area is, I don't know, it just looks sloppy. So I think it's time to put some stamped solder on it and spiff it up a little bit. So I'm using the copper foil I showed you. And copper foil can be cut into shapes and stuff if you want. I find it tears very easily, so it's not a problem to find your scissors when you're in the midst of creating something. So I'm going to cover up this bluish area to some degree. It has a self-adhesive back. You see how it peels back. And, it's not real stick. And I'm going to cover up an area. And I've kind of got it wrinkly, which is just fine. And I'm going to tear this off just with my fingers. Now, you see I kind of got that much on there. Now, I'd probably do another stripe somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and just put, I really want to make this better. I've pressed down as hard as I can with my finger. And then you can take the end of scissors, an end of a paintbrush, and you want to burnish that stripe down. You don't want any air bubbles. It might just cause it to pop off. So just burnish it. If there's wrinkles, don't worry about the wrinkles. It's really smooth, but it needs to be totally attached. Okay. Now I'm going to stand that up a little bit so you can kind of see. Where's my hole? This is where it's going to hang. So let's see. Hopefully that's not too glary. Luster kind of glares anyway. And then this copper foil is very shiny. Now, I'm going to take a little of my liquid flux. Sometimes I just use the cap, but you know, there's the danger of the open bottle tipping over. So I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit in a small dish. It won't take much for two. And you can use a cheap brush or a lovely little sponge. They're almost like a Q-tip, but they have a little sponge tip on them. They're pink. Yeah, they're cheap. You can throw them away when you're done. Now I'm going to dip it into the flux and go over the copper foil. Doesn't take much. Now set this aside so I don't accidentally bump it. Now, I tinned that. Let's see if it's enough. I might have to re-tin it. Oh, one thing I didn't shut for supplies. Usually I have a handout, and that helps me to remember everything. And then if I forget, I can hand it out, and you'll say, oh, she didn't mention that. Okay, here is a scrubby from the kitchen, and it's just damp. Sometimes you get a little hunk of solder on the end of your tip, and you just lightly rub it to clean that off. That's a handy little tool. Keep your tip tinder lid open, as I might need. And then, of course, when we're done, we've got some sanding products that will be very helpful to the finished product. We will be sanding a little bit, and I've got sandpaper, steel wool, a scrubby kitchen thing, and then just your green Scotch-Brite pad. You can use a fingernail file. This is a nice little stubby one here, but it's a, you know, for your fake fingernails. And those will be good, and I'll show you how that works when we're done. So you're going to be using both hands, and the solder in one hand, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm right-handed, so I'm using the gun in the right hand, but I will be stamping with my left hand. I'm just going to grab a stamp and ready to go here. So if this doesn't flow right away, I'm just going to see if it'll work. Okay, it's not going immediately, but sometimes you have to give it a little time. It's already stuck to that, but it's not flowing. So I'm going to stick it in my tip and get a nice shiny tip. Oh yes, there we go. Now it should, see how quickly that got a bead of solder on there. And if I just stopped right there and just spread this out, a little solder goes a long way. So I've covered up all of the copper area that I can see. Now, with this copper foil tape, it does have that adhesive on the back. And sometimes they're too long on that piece. It's round on you because you've softened the adhesive. And so it's going to need, I find that sometimes I have to just do these little motions like this to get it started and keep in place. So it's good now. I'm going to go ahead and add another little blob because we don't want it flat. We want a little dimension, sort of like base for, I think this stamp solder technique is a little bit like a replacement for some of the other products that we have to fire. Now, you can't fire this. This will be the last step in your creative process. So get all your painting done, your background's done, and then if you need to put some stamp solder or you plan on putting stamp solder on your piece, it will be your last step because that'll be it. So I'm gonna, it's hard, it sets up fast, and it's hot. So you kind of might want to keep something layers or some metal thing to kind of hold it in place if you're working, or just the temptation if you're doing a little medallion from on the side, you might want to pick it up as soon as you get it done, but it's hot. So these things will help remind you, don't get too quick with looking at what you're doing. Even the porcelain will warm up and it might get too hot for you to handle. So just remember that. So back to this, it's set out a little bit. I'm going to soften it and try to keep it into a puddle. And while it's still puddly, you got to stamp it. All right. Now this particular stamp is got like a grid on it. And so obviously that's exactly what's come through on this star in that first attempt. I hope that's coming through. Okay, it looks kind of glary on my side. If I can. Okay, maybe it's better off to just leave it flat. Anyway, so I've got a little section there. If I don't like that, you can warm it up again. Maybe put a little bit more solder. Soften it. And if you want that to stay, you can. And you might want to try a different stamp altogether. I'm going to use one that does not have a handle. Yes, I think I like that better. And now I'm going to move on, and I'll lift it up again if that helps to see it closer. Put a little more, get it all puddled. I'm going to try this again with this stamp. And if it doesn't at first give you what you want, just soften it again. And to me, that would have lived with that. But in your case, I want you to see that you can keep doing this. Yeah, that's not even very good now. So let me do it again. 3 or 4 times is not going to be a terrible thing. You know, that's what it's all about. The process is so fun. It's like, oh, maybe I should turn my stamp and try something a little different. I'm going time to see, and I might want to add a little more solder so I can have a bigger puddle. The thing is, you can't do huge projects with stamp solder because it just doesn't keep it all liquid enough everywhere. Okay. All right, I'm going to say that's okay. Set this aside. Now, it's warm, but I can handle it. Now, maybe if I come back here, I'm not seeing it as well. I don't know if you can see the detail, but we're going to patina next. And so what we don't see here, we will see after we patina. And again, patina will stain your skin. It kind of darkens it. If you feel comfortable wearing gloves, you can. I use a cheap brush or one of these little pink things. I'm going to pour the black because darker than the darkening one.
You've had great success. Angie, you're, Deanne, you're frozen on the screen. I don't know if your internet is it's overloaded. Cooperation we got with the counties and the state.
Okay. All right. So apparently my laptop is still trying to connect to the Zoom meeting. Oh, wait, I'm on mute, I betcha. Okay. Now, my laptop decided the internet's not going to work for it, checking the connection, technical difficulties. So I'm shutting that. I've got my phone. Got it. Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Intermittent internet out here in rural Colorado. I guess it's on my end. Okay, so I'm going to hold the camera over my star and show you what I've done so far, which I'm at to bring you up to date. I'm using some patina to darken the strip. Okay, I don't have a way to hold my phone. Now tell me if I just do that, can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All righty. So you can see how dark this is. Now, that looks pretty ugly. I mean, it's not pretty yet, but it will be. So because it is continuing to darken, I am going to take my spray bottle of water and just stop it right there. And of course, did I get here with paper towel? No. So, all right. I am blotting. You can see it. It's messy. May get on my fingers. What's new? All right. So still quite dark. So my favorite tool at this point is the steel wool. I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. Maybe I can. Okay, I think I'm going to have to lay the phone down and I'm going to put it at an angle. You probably won't be able to see exactly. Yeah, it's not going to try that. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now I'm just rubbing the steel wool over it. Okay, now I'm going to pick the phone up. Now, you see that helped immensely, but you can also take like a fingernail file and go over those higher spots and make them even shinier. So I'm going to lay the phone down again and do that quickly. Doesn't take a lot of effort. Okay, it's not going to stay. All right, I'm just going over the top part. You can do this as much as you want. Take off some of that patina. And there, you see all the residue from the steel wool. And there we have it. And you see there are little crevices, deep areas. I think that's an improvement on an otherwise rather ugly ornament. And I would probably do just a little bit more, maybe put a stripe along here. And in these recessed areas, you could put little things like crystals if you wanted to, I don't know if you can get real crystals, but rhinestone-like things, flat-backed embellishments. You would glue those on. And it just is a great tool. In my opinion, it kind of replaces the base for gold or your eye relief or non-ping, because that's what we like to do, build up some interesting areas of texture on our piece. And then if we're happy with this, then we put a sealer on it. And one of the ones I use is Diamond Glaze, which also has some dimension. You just put it on thin. Recently, I got some satin uh, glaze for polymer clay, and it works good on here too. This one just squeezes out, and you just rub it with a cheap brush, and it's water based. So then you just let it dry, and it dries quickly, and you've got something very different. So um, I think I covered everything I do in my steps. It's interrupted, I'm sorry to say, thanks to our internet. But if anyone has questions at this point, maybe I can answer them.
If you would like to ask questions, just unmute yourself and we'll all be able to hear your questions. Would anyone like to ask some questions?
I do have a question on that copper tape.
Right.
You only put that metal soldering only on the copper tape. You don't do it onto the glazed china at all.
Well, if it got onto the glazed china, it wouldn't stick. You know, solder's metal, it needs metal to stick. Okay. So if it gets on that's why we do these little medallions like on a piece of ceramic tile. It won't stick to the tile, but you can peel it up after you're done and use those as attachments. So it won't matter if it spills over a little bit onto that. It's not going to stick unless it's attached really firmly to the piece on the metal.
Okay. And the copper tape, where do you get that at?
Well, I have to order everything. I don't have suppliers real close here unless I go into the big cities. So I found a lot of mine on Amazon or other stained glass supply places. Um, you know, it's not hard to find, but I do online shopping for a lot of the supplies I need.
Okay.
Dichroic glass is another thing to add into this too, which makes it quite pretty.
On the copper tape, is it a metal?
Yeah, it is. It's really a metal.
Okay. So you wouldn't fire that and do something else without soldering it, make something else up. Okay.
Right. Yeah. It would melt and just be ruined in your kiln.
Okay.
Yeah, this soldering iron melts the solder at about 400, let's see, was it 440 degrees. So you know what, the lowest glass firing we do in the kiln is like 1100 something. So, you know, it could not hold up at all in the kiln.
Okay. Well, I thought that was very interesting.
Well, thank you. It's so much fun. And it's easy. Yeah, it's not difficult to do this. The more you do, the better you get at it and you learn things. But I think the trick is to make sure that your stamps are going to hold up. Otherwise, a melted stamp is just not pretty. You know, it's ruined. So.
Yeah.
Hi, I wanted to ask the glue of the copper tape, does it ever come off or does it kind of get, um, does the heat help it stick better to the porcelain?
It usually sticks. I have to confess, there was only one time it did not stick. And I don't know if it was because of the way my tape was stored and it got something on it, but it did not stick. It was just about a 1 inch little area. And I ended up having to glue it back on because I wanted two little stripes on this vase. And so the one would not stick. So it had lost its self adhesive. And like I said, that early stuff, it did not look like it didn't feel like it had a lot of stickiness, but it did stick. This thing is stuck. It's really, you know, I've just now pushed on it. Let me go this way, and it's stuck. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a possibility of the whole thing coming on.
It could, yeah, but it never has. So I think as long as you've got fresh tape, and if it does come off, you would have to glue it back on. But only one time in the 2 years or so that I've been doing this has it ever not held.
Okay, that's nice to know. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that was really very informative, and I love the way you explained every little bit. Thanks for that.
Well, you're sure
I don't
welcome.
know. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
I can get everything here in India, but I'm definitely going to try.
Well, good for you. It's worth the practice. I mean,
Mhm.
I just think anything new is kind of scary, but do it in the privacy of your own workspace and just play around with it, and you can't go wrong. You'll find out right away what's especially good and what's not so good. And if it's not good, doesn't mean it's a failure. Just keep working at it, you know.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, you are welcome too. I hope you guys go and try it. It is kind of expensive when you get started on it, but it will last forever. And I've got a stack of copper foil here that it's like, what was I thinking when I ordered so much? You know, you don't need that much. Um, they even make copper wire, which I have got, but I've never used. And I'm not sure how easy it would be to incorporate copper wire onto the piece, but I might try that one of these days. It's just, one more thing, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
And you're not going to want to use this on something you eat off of, you know, it's just
yeah.
not practical. But, you know, jewelry especially is nice, boxes, um, you know, big tiles, I think can really, they can embellish. And that's what we need to remember. It's not a standalone technique. It's not especially pretty all by itself, but it can sure add to some other things and make your work stand out and make you a little different than other people's creations. Because I'm not even sure I could recreate the same kind of pattern if I tried it again. You know, you just have to get in the moment and do it.
Yeah.
So,
But that makes it unique.
It does, yes. We're all different anyway. And I'm not one to do a dinner set because you have to do them all the same. And it's like, forget it. You know, even if I tried, they would not come out the same. I can't trace the same. You know, if I had a great pattern, I trace it once and it's like tracing it again and again. No, it's just different. So I'm just not made to do mass production of anything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It was a fascinating and very interesting lesson, and I can't wait to try it myself. So,
Well,
again, thank you for sharing your time and your talent with us. And it was a great lesson. So, see you soon.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you all. Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.